Hello, everybody, and welcome to OEA's Top 4 at 4, when we discuss the week's top 4 issues in public education in about 10 minutes. My name is Amanda Ewing. I'm the Associate Executive Director at OEA. In the room, we've also got
Alicia Priest, career teacher from Yukon, Oklahoma, and your OEA president.
Catherine Bishop, special educator from Putnam City, your OEA vice president.
Ivy Riggs, legislative and political organizer for the east half of the state.
And Lauren Burkholder, social media specialist.
All right, so the 4 issues that we've chosen to highlight this week include the deregulation bill, Senate Bill 1187. We'll talk about vouchers and the effort to move that forward in both the House and the Senate. We'll talk about Senate Bill 1073, which is a very good bill impacting Oklahoma's budget. And then finally, we will end with some bills that impact testing in your classrooms and your districts. So let's get started on Senate Bill 1187. We have been hearing a lot of buzz about this on social media, and a lot of people have been asking questions. So let's start from the beginning, I guess. Senate Education heard this bill on Monday, and it passed out of that committee with a vote of 9-4. Now, we have a lot of education to do with our senators on this bill, because I think that when we have those good conversations with them and explain exactly what this bill does, I think we're going to have a lot of them, even some who voted for it in committee, come around and see that they need to vote against this bill in the Senate floor. So we've got a little step-by-step breakdown of what exactly 1187 does. And the first thing it would do would deregulate your school district or your school site to that of a charter school. Now, you may recall that as a state, we passed statewide expansion of charter schools last year in Senate Bill 782. So any school in the state can turn into a charter now if they choose. So this part is frankly unnecessary, but the first thing is it would deregulate your school to a charter school, but then it would exempt it from a lot of things that a public school would normally still have to adhere to. Your school would no longer have to adhere to the minimum salary schedule. It wouldn't have to provide health insurance or a pension. It wouldn't have to do background checks or have certified staff in any way. So there's actually even more than that. There's a list of 13 things this bill does that would be really bad, or would allow a school to do that would be really bad. So once you've deregulated to the charter level, and then you've allowed people to no longer pay the minimum salary and do all of those other things, after that your school will be expected to demonstrate mastery. You'll have to show that 75% of your students can demonstrate mastery. And if you can't do that, then your school has one of 4 options. They're listed there on the screen, but among those options is firing half the staff or closing your school down. So this is a very bad bill. I've heard some folks talking online about it and think that it's just allowing a district to turn to a charter, but it's much worse than that. And we really have got to spread the word to our state senators that we need some help on this, and we need them to vote no on Senate Bill 1187. So be sure to call your senator, and this slide shows you some of the talking points that OEA has created to help you when you contact them, whether it's via phone or email. You can use some of these to talk about the reasons why they should oppose this bill. Next up, and I should say also, all of these resources that we're going to talk about today, and we'll do this every week, we're going to make those available to you on our website. So if you go to okea.org, our OEA website, then you will find a place there on the homepage that will direct you to a page with all these resources that you can utilize. So we really want this call every week, or this podcast every week, to be a quick update on the most important things going on in the week, and to then direct you to some resources so that you can take action. So the second topic we'll talk about is vouchers. Now, we're no stranger to this issue, of course. We fight it every year, but we've got some issues this year that are new. There's a new push in the House. It's House Bill 2949. We've been talking to you about that for the last few weeks. It's Representative Nelson and Newell's bill. It's a very bad bill. You probably already know the reasons that we do not support vouchers, and it turns out most of the public in Oklahoma does not support vouchers either. But there's another bill that was just kind of came on the radar last night, actually, Senate Bill 609. It is a Senator Jolly voucher bill that passed out of committee last year. Then Senator Jolly didn't have the votes to move it forward last year, so it just stayed dormant until last night when we received notice that it appears Senator Jolly is going to try to push this bill forward in the next 2 weeks. So he'll have the next 2 weeks, I think, to try to get this bill past the Senate in order for it to stay alive. So we've done a lot of work in the House already. So on the House side, we've got a list of legislators that are included on this slide. These are the ones that are still undecided. Most everyone in the House has made up their mind one way or the other and gone on the record with their constituents as to where they stand on vouchers. But this list of legislators are those that we really need some extra contact to because they have not yet committed one way or the other to their constituents. So the public education community really needs to try to contact them and try to keep making that case, really try to persuade them. Talk about what is your personal story? What have you seen in your school district that leads you to oppose vouchers? So Alicia, can you maybe give us an idea of if you were going to write a letter to your legislator, I'm sure you have, about vouchers, what's the personal story that you would talk about as kind of an example for those who are thinking about contacting their legislators?
Well, one of the things that I like to talk about in the letters that I write is class size, because we all know that the larger our class sizes get, the less one-on-one attention students have. When I started teaching in UConn 20-ish years ago, class sizes sat around 18 in elementary schools, 18 to 20, and just a little bit above that in the secondary. And just 20 years later, we are sitting at about 30 in elementary school classes and anywhere between 30 and 40 in our secondary classes. And that's not okay. So we can't strip away further funding through voucher system and not expect that to affect our kids.
That's a great example. So I really like the way you kind of personalize to your community how the budget cuts have affected UConn. Your legislators are going to be familiar with that and going to know about those schools there. So I think that really helps make a point more strongly than just using our talking points alone. So we've got some great messaging, though, on vouchers, some stuff that really works. And among those resources we'll provide to you after this recording will be a sample letter that I think our communication staff created, and I think it really helps give you a framework for how you might write an email to your legislator if you think you need that extra help. We'll have that available online. So Lauren, you show on this slide here, there's a for contact information visit and then this link. What are they going to find if they click on that link?
They're going to find a spreadsheet of all of these representatives. They have their email, phone number, Twitter handle, and they should be able to click on those immediately and it will pull up their email. They don't have to do any more legwork than that.
That's excellent. I think we do phone calls, we do emails, but sometimes we forget that a lot of these legislators are also really active on social media, and that's yet another avenue that we can use to contact them.
So does that mean that if my legislator doesn't appear on this slide that I shouldn't contact them?
Oh, great question. Thank you. So we still need every representative to be reminded that this is an important bill, that we need them to oppose it, and we also need to remind those legislators that have already committed to vote against it that if it gets amended down the road, that we still want them to oppose this bill in any form, that we want no vouchers, that we don't have a dollar to spare in our public schools, and we need them to oppose vouchers in any form. Thank you, Alicia, for that question. All right, so issue number 3 is Senate Bill 1073. This was a hint of good news that came out of the Senate Finance Committee yesterday morning. This bill was authored by Senator Mazie, who is the tax policy guy in the state Senate. And Senator Mazie is a Republican who recognizes that our state budget is in such dire straits right now that one of the big steps we could take immediately to helping the budget process and helping us come up with the money to fund our schools for the next year would be to roll back the tax cut that took place in January of 2016. So this bill would suspend that tax cut That's kind of the best thing it does. We're talking $150 million of our $1.3 billion shortfall. So a big chunk of it, over 10% of that shortfall, would be made up by suspending this tax cut for the year. And the bill does a couple of other good things also. It sets a more realistic trigger in place so that the next round of tax cuts only go into effect if we reach an increase in revenue of a certain amount. So this last one went into effect based on estimates, which turned out not to be accurate estimates. So we're making sure that in the future our tax cuts only go into effect based on real, actual income numbers. And then the third thing this bill does is there's a double deduction. A weird thing about Oklahoma is that you can actually deduct part of your state income tax when you file your state income tax. We only do it here in Oklahoma, and it's just kind of a weird thing that only applies to some people, but we're going to do away with that and kind of make our state taxes work a little better, and that'll generate some revenue also. So this bill is, I think, one of the biggest things to be happening in the state legislature right now. There is a bill that would actually impact tax policy. As you all no doubt know, our public schools have been the victims of over-cutting of taxes in recent years, and we don't have any more revenue to spare. We need all the dollars we can get in our public schools, and all the polling shows that our public supports investing tax dollars in our public schools. So this would be a great bill to push through the Senate. But I promise you, your state senator is getting a lot of pressure from the governor's office and everywhere else to, continue down that path of tax cuts. And so they're going to need some support from their public education community to say, hey, I'm going to stand with you. If you'll vote against this bill, I'll be there with you. And so please do that. So be sure you contact your senator about Senate Bill 1073. And then finally, Ivy, can you fill us in about some of these good testing bills that we've seen coming along this session?
Yes. So TLE is one of the issues that we put into this testing category. And there are 3 bills that at this time we're supporting. House Bill 2945 by Katie Hinkey out of Tulsa, House Bill 2957 by Michael Rogers out of Broken Arrow, and Senate Bill 1350 from Senator Ford from Bartlesville. At this point, we support all 3 bills. And they all differ just a little bit, but what they have in common is they remove the requirement to use test scores for teacher evaluation. They all 3 make it a local district decision whether a district wants to use test scores or not. We know that this issue is in litigation all over the country. We don't think a lot of districts will want to do this, but we think this is a step forward for teacher evaluation. So we think that as these 3 bills move forward, we are supporting them. We think they will all end up somewhere in conference committee, coming up with some kind of compromise between all 3, but very promising at this point.
I'd say those bills are an upside to what the very big downside of our budget this year. At least we're looking at some relief in the form of testing, right? It saves some money, considering, doing away with those EOIs alone would save our state, I think, about $6 million. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping right ahead of you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the next one is about removing EOIs, which would eliminate about $6 million in testing costs. If we eliminate EOIs and go to taking 1 test, that eliminates $6 million in the State Department of Education budget, and hopefully they could fund some of these other mandates that have been underfunded. So Senate Bill 1170 is by Senator Ford also. He has a TLE bill out of Bartlesville. Eliminates EOIs. Kind of a step-by-step process after that. The State Department would have to approve a list of nationally recognized tests. So, for example, ACT, SAT, Iowa, there are some other ones that could be used. And, you have each district gets to choose from that list. Every student takes a single test. Now, from ACT here in Oklahoma, it's not just, it has multi-subjects involved in that test. So it would meet the federal requirement that our EOIs meet, but it's 1 single test, so that's why it saves money and time. The district gets to solely determine whether a student has shown mastery for graduation. And then at the end of the year, the district reports kind of Senator Ford called it a management report. So test scores versus graduation rates. Right now, it has nothing punitive in it. It just would show the community, the percentage of graduation rate, how many students graduated, and then show their ACT scores. And if those aren't in alignment, then, maybe we need to adjust our graduation requirements, that kind of thing. But we think this is a very positive step in eliminating some extra testing at the secondary level anyway. And we definitely want to support all 4 of these bills.
Thank you, Ivy. That was great points, especially that about the saving $16. Okay, so those are the 4 main issues this week going on. That's our top 4 at 4. Please be sure to continue the conversation on social media. Contact us on Facebook or on Twitter if you have any questions, need additional information, and like we said, look out for those additional resources on our website at okea.org. Catherine, Alicia, any final messages before we sign off?
Well, I just say thank you for listening in, and thank you for making it a priority to be involved in your profession beyond just your classroom walls. We cannot make a difference at the Capitol without your contact and your personal relationships that you have with those legislators. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thanks, Alicia. Catherine?
I'm just going to echo what Alicia said with thank you, thank you, thank you. Your calls, your emails have made a difference. We've already seen that this year. And so I just encourage you to continue to be a part of that collective voice, speaking up, speaking out for the children of Oklahoma. Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us, and we will talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.